Let's have the sum up of this chapter. Nelson Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom. We discussed on that day through PPT that there was a system of apartheid, a political system that separates people according to their race. And in South Africa, people have suffered a lot. They were being exploited. They were not allowed to enter into jobs. The jobs were meant only for the white people. So the black people were not allowed to join the jobs. Many limitations were there. They were not allowed to enter into many of the hotels or many other places which were prohibited for them. So in this way, they were living a life of cruelty. They were leading a very exploited life, living as slaves and suffering great problems. So what happened? We have seen that in 1994 in South Africa, democratic elections were held and Mandela became the first black president of a new nation. Then we are given the BBC News also. In that, we were told that Nelson Mandela became the first president, black president, after more than 3 centuries of white rule. And Mr. Mandela, his party, African National Congress Party, won 252 of the 400 seats in the first democratic elections. And when he was going to have this swearing in ceremony, the inauguration ceremony, what is shown that all the great leaders of the different countries visited that place, because before that, these countries have cut off their relations with South Africa and they were not having any trade relations, they were not visiting these places. So it was a great moment for all of them. And this inauguration ceremony took place in the Union Buildings Amphitheatre in Pretoria on that day. And it was attended by politicians, dignitaries from more than 140 countries around the world. And Nelson Mandela in his address says, and gave assurance to the people of the world that never, never again in this beautiful world, they will experience the oppressions of one by another. So jubilant scenes on the streets of Pretoria followed the ceremony with blacks, whites, and colored celebrating together. More than 1 lakh South African men, women, and children of all the races, they sang together, danced with joy. These were the scenes of their happiness that were being shown in that area when a large number of people, men, women, and children of different races, different colors, that means black and whites, they had gathered there and they were celebrating this event. So after this, we read about the ceremony, how it was going on. It was the day of 10th May. That was very bright and clear day for them. And for the past few days, Nelson Mandela had been surrounded by the different dignitaries and the great world leaders who were coming to pay their respect before the inauguration ceremony. And it was the largest gathering ever of the international leaders on South African soil. The ceremonies took place, as we have already discussed, in the lovely sandstone amphitheatre formed by the Union Buildings in Pretoria. And for decades, this had been the seat of white supremacy, and now it was a site of rainbow gathering of different colors and nations for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government. Because it was They were under the white supremacy. So the rule of the white supremacy was there. Now this was for the first time that there was a rainbow gathering of different colors, because all the races have gathered together. That's why it was called as a rainbow gathering of different colors of different nations. They have gathered there for the installation of South Africa's first democratic non-racial government, democratic and non-racial, which was not based on the races, that government which was not based on the races. So after this, we read that on that lovely autumn day, I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. He told us for that swearing in ceremony that it was considered as a lovely autumn day. And we discussed on that day also why it was autumn day, because in the month of May, we people have summer. Whereas being in the southern hemisphere, South Africa was having the autumn season, and it was considered as a lovely autumn day, 10th May, when this inauguration ceremony started. I was accompanied by my daughter Zinani. He was along with his daughter. On the podium, Mr. D. Clerk was first sworn in as the second deputy president. We have already read this part. And then Themba Mbeki was sworn in as the first deputy president. When it was my turn, I pledged to obey and uphold the constitution and to devote myself to the well-being of the republic and its people. We have read this part that he took a pledge that he would obey the constitution, he would uphold, means maintain the dignity of the constitution, and he will devote whole of his life for the well-being of the people of South Africa, for the people of his country. They will never feel any type of problem after that. Then we are given the part of his speech when he said, "Today all of us do by our presence here confer glory and hope to newborn liberty out of the experience of an extraordinary human disaster that lasted too long must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud." We have read this part also when he said, made an advice to the people of South Africa that they all will preserve this liberty which they have achieved after a human disaster. That means after a great exploitation and great struggle, they have achieved it. So now they will try to keep this liberty safe. So in this way, he considered the extraordinary human disaster, that was the slavery of the white supremacy that lasted too long, must be born a society of which all humanity will be proud. And he gave assurance and told the people to make promise for this thing, that now the society will be there which will look for the welfare of the whole humanity, and the whole humanity will be proud of that. We who were outlaws. Priyanka beta, wait for your problem. Let me finish the part, then I'll give you the time at the end to ask your questions. We who were outlaws not so long ago have today been given the rare privilege to be host to the nations of the world on our own soil. We here refers to all the people of South Africa, all the citizens. He says we who were outlaws. Outlaws means those people who had suffered the apartheid policy, and due to that many countries had earlier broken off the diplomatic relations with South Africa. They were not having any relation with South Africa. They had cut off their relations. और अब क्या कह रहे हैं कि अब वो सारे लोग क्या चाहते हैं, they all have gathered there. He says we have today given the rare privilege कि हमें एक ऐसा privilege, एक ऐसा मौका मिला है to be the host to the nations of the world on our own soil. ये अपनी ही ज़मीन के ऊपर हमें उन सब nations की hosting करने का, उनकी मेजबानी करने का मौका मिला है. We thank all of our distinguished international guests for having come to take position with the people of our country of what is, after all, a common victory for justice, for peace, for human dignity. Till here, I think we have read. And he thanked all the distinguished international guests for coming there, and helping them to celebrate their common victory, that was a victory for justice, peace, and human dignity, for the respect of the human beings. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. Please understand what he told the people in his speech. We have at last achieved our political emancipation. क्या कह रहे हैं कि after all we have achieved our political emancipation, political freedom from the restrictions. We pledge ourselves to liberate all our people. So what he said, that we have achieved our political emancipation, that means political level पर जो हमारी slavery थी उससे हमने freedom, restriction से freedom जो है हमें मिल गई है. We pledge ourselves कि हमें अपने आप से हम कसम लेते हैं, pledge means ओथ ले रहे हैं, to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, कि हम अपने आप को सारे लोगों को, अपने सारे देश के लोगों को, सिटीजन्स को, वी विल लिबरेट ऑल आर पीपल फ्रॉम द कॉन्टिन्यूस बॉन्डेज ऑफ पॉवर्टी, कि जो हमारी गरीबी का बंधन हमारे ऊपर था एक, उसमें से हम अपने आप को आज़ाद करेंगे, मुक्त करेंगे. डिप्राइवेशन, दैट मीन्स मेकिंग द पीपल अवे फ्रॉम द राइट्स, कि लोगों को उनके अधिकारों से वंचित किया हुआ था. डिप्राइवेशन क्या था? स्टेट ऑफ नॉट हैविंग वंस राइटफुल बेनिफिट्स, जो आपको फंडामेंटल राइट्स अपने मिलते हैं, उन सब से आपको डिप्राइव किया गया था, वंचित किया गया था. पीपल वर नॉट एबल टू एंजॉय देयर राइट्स. Suffering, they were suffering because they were slaves and they were treated very badly. Gender discrimination was there, being treated differently and unfavorably, and other discrimination, many different discriminations were there. They were being treated in a different way and in unfavorable way. That means they were not treated equal just like the other human beings. So in this way, he told the people that we pledge ourselves to liberate all our people from the continuing bondage of poverty, deprivation, suffering, gender, and other discrimination. Please underline this line, कि अपने आप से हमें ये प्लेज लेनी होगी कि अब हम अपने कंट्री के लोगों को डिप्राइवेशन से, सफरिंग से और जेंडर या दूसरी किसी भी डिस्क्रिमिनेशन से हम अपने आप को अलग रखेंगे. So in this way, he again told in his speech, made commitment to the people, gave assurance, never, never, and never again shall it be that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression of one by another. This is the same line that we have read in the PPT also, and in the beginning part also, when he made promise to the people that according to him, he will do his best efforts, that this time will never come that this beautiful land will again experience the oppression or the slavery of one by another. मतलब एक human being दूसरे human being को अपना slave बनाए, ऐसा मौका कभी नहीं आएगा. कभी भी दोबारा साउथ अफ्रीकन जो हैं वो इस slavery के अंडर नहीं आएंगे. He made this commitment, he made this promise to the people that he will do his best effort to maintain the liberty and the freedom of that country. The sun shall never set on so glorious a human achievement. कि ये सूरज जो कि आज निकला है, इसका कहने का मतलब यह क्या था कि उनके अकॉर्डिंगली दिस वाज द न्यू सन दैट हैड रिजन इन दैट एरिया ऑफ साउथ अफ्रीका. इट विल नेवर सेट on so glorious a human achievement. That is, human achievement is the liberty or the freedom which they have achieved. The glorious achievement, that is the freedom they have got. This sun of freedom will never set again. Let freedom reign. God bless Africa. And then he prayed to God that this freedom should continue reign, means rule over this area of South Africa, and God should bless the African area, this Africa country. So in this way, he prayed to God, he made promise to the people of South Africa. Now, after this, there are some oral comprehension check questions are given. Please come with the reading of these, this part and finding out these questions tomorrow. We'll discuss it tomorrow. Coming to the next part, I'm continuing with the reading. We'll discuss the questions tomorrow. A few moments later, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters, and troop carriers rode in perfect formation over the Union buildings. You might have seen कि जब हम लोग अपने इंडिपेंडेंस डे की परेड देखते हैं 26 जनवरी को या 15 अगस्त को, तो आप क्या देखते हो कि हमारे भी बहुत अच्छा जो है स्पेक्टेकुलर इवेंट्स जो हैं ऑर्गेनाइज किए जाते हैं। डिफरेंट स्कूल्स के स्टूडेंट्स होते हैं डिफरेंट ड्रेसेस में, कलरफुल ड्रेसेस में, आर्मी के लोग होते हैं जो कि बहुत ज़्यादा अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन करते हैं, वहाँ पर परेड करते हैं। उसके बाद कुछ म्यूज़िक के साथ कुछ लेजियम, पीटी, बहुत सी चीज़ें जो हैं वो प्रेजेंट की जाती हैं। सो इन द सेम वे दे ऑल्सो सेलिब्रेटेड देयर विक्ट्री, देयर फ्रीडम इन द सेम वे। एंड व्हाट हैपेंड अ फ्यू मोमेंट्स लेटर, we all lifted our eyes in awe as a spectacular array of South African jets, helicopters and troop carriers rode in perfect formation. क्या हुआ, उन्होंने एक ही मिनट में जब उन्होंने ऊपर देखा तो वो क्या नोट करते हैं कि उनके हेलीकॉप्टर्स जितने भी उनके पास ग्रेट स्ट्रेंथ थी उनकी, स्पेक्टेकुलर अरे क्या होता है, एन इम्प्रेसिव डिस्प्ले ऑफ कलरफुल एंड अट्रैक्टिव सीन्स, इवेंट्स ऑफ साउथ अफ्रीकन जेट्स, हेलीकॉप्टर्स एंड ट्रूप कैरियर्स। जो भी उनके आर्मी के लोग थे, जेट्स, हेलीकॉप्टर्स, जितनी उनके पास स्ट्रेंथ थी, दैट वाज ऑल बीइंग डिस्प्लेड इन परफेक्ट फॉर्मेशन ओवर द यूनियन बिल्डिंग्स। परफेक्ट फॉर्मेशन में यूनियन बिल्डिंग में वो सब लोग अपनी प्रेजेंटेशन दे रहे थे। इट वॉज नॉट ओनली अ डिस्प्ले ऑफ पिन पॉइंट प्रिसीजन एंड मिलिट्री फोर्स, बट अ डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन ऑफ द मिलिट्रीज लॉयल्टी टू डेमोक्रेसी। और इस प्रेजेंटेशन का मतलब सिर्फ ये नहीं था कि वो अपने मिलिट्री फोर्सेस को या अपने स्ट्रेंथ को डिस्प्ले कर रहे थे, दैट वाज ओनली अ डिस्प्ले ऑफ पिन पॉइंट प्रिसीजन, कि सिर्फ वो अपना डिस्क्राइब कर रहे थे, लोगों को डिस्प्ले कर रहे थे, डेमोन्स्ट्रेट कर रहे थे अपनी स्ट्रेंथ। इट वाज अ डेमोन्स्ट्रेशन ऑफ द मिलिट्रीज लॉयल्टी टू डेमोक्रेसी. It was also showing that their military will be loyal to the democratic government. They will be very much faithful to their democratic government, to a new government that had been freely and fairly elected. एक ऐसी government जो कि freely और fair तरीके से elect की गई है। Only moments before, the highest generals of South African Defence Force and police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals from days gone by, saluted me and pledged their loyalty. क्या देखा उन्होंने कि ओनली मोमेंट्स बिफोर, कि कुछ क्षण पहले ही, द हाईएस्ट जनरल्स ऑफ साउथ अफ्रीकन डिफेंस फोर्स एंड पुलिस, साउथ अफ्रीका की डिफेंस और पुलिस के जो लोग थे, दे ऑल वर प्रेजेंट देयर एंड दे ऑल वर सैल्यूटिंग द ग्रेट पर्सनैलिटी ऑफ Nelson Mandela at that time, who was elected as so they all were paying their respect and tribute to this great personality, Nelson Mandela. Only moments before, the highest generals of the South African Defence Force and Police, their chests bedecked with ribbons and medals. Their chests were decorated. Bedecked means decorated with the medals and the ribbons which they have achieved in the days gone by. They saluted me. Saluted me here means they saluted Nelson Mandela and pledged their loyalty. And they took a pledge that they will be loyal to the great democratic government that was elected freely and fairly. I was not unmindful of the fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me. And Nelson Mandela tells us very frankly and very clearly that he was not unmindful. That means he was aware of. Both negative again, not or un laga hua hai, so it becomes positive. I was not unmindful of the fact means I was aware of this fact. किस चीज की मुझे knowledge थी, I was conscious about this fact that not so many years before they would not have saluted but arrested me, कि वही पुलिस के लोग, वही मिलिट्री के लोग जो कि कुछ साल पहले उसको अरेस्ट करने के लिए तैयार थे, they were not saluting him. Finally, now they all were saluting him. Finally, a chevron of Impala jets left a smoke trail of the black, red, green, blue, and gold of the new South African flag. And then they noticed that in the sky, there was a pattern in the shape of V. Chevron means in the shape of V all the different colors, flags of the South Africa were being unfurled, and they were enjoying, they were celebrating their liberty. The day was symbolized for me by the playing of our national anthem, and then what he told about the importance of their national anthem कि जब हम फ्री हो जाते हैं, कोई भी कंट्री फ्री होता है तो उसका अपना नेशनल एंथम होता है जिसकी एक ग्रेट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंस होती है. So the day was symbolized for me by the playing of our national anthems and the vision of whites singing Nakosi, Sekela, Africa, and blacks singing Die Stem, the old anthem of Republic. So what was told that the day was symbolized by singing the two national anthems. कि जो white लोग थे, they were singing their own African national anthem, and the blacks were singing their old national anthem of their republic. Although that day neither group knew the lyrics of the anthem they once despised, they would soon know the words by heart. And he hoped that all those people who were singing these national anthems, both the groups, they did not know about the lyrics of their anthems, कि जो white थे उनको black के anthem के बारे में lyrics नहीं मालूम थे, और जो black people थे, they did not know about the lyrics of the white people. They despised ones, that means they have a feeling of hatred and having low opinion about their national anthem. कि हम कहते हैं कि हमारे country का national anthem जो है वो बढ़िया है, हम उसको respect देते हैं, and we have low opinion for others. That was the feeling that is displayed by the English and the black people at that time. They would soon know the word by heart. But Nelson Mandela hopes that they all would come to know about the lyrics of each other's anthem, national anthem by heart after some time when they keep on singing this. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. Now, in this paragraph, we are told about his feelings, what he felt on that particular day of inauguration. He says, on the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed is the feeling of extreme happiness. जैसे हम हिंदी में कहते हैं ना गदगद हो जाना, मुहावरा यूज करते हो आप. That is the meaning of this word overwhelmed. कि इतना ज़्यादा वो खुश था कि वो अपनी खुशी को बयान नहीं कर सकता था. कि on that particular day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a history, with a sense of history. किस चीज़ से वो overwhelmed थे? With the feeling of his historical background. कि उनके country की जो history क्या थी, that was giving him happiness. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned peoples of their own land. So he told us the history of South African in this paragraph, how the great leaders came forward and how they reached to this destination of independence and their freedom. He told us that in the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War, underline, after a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War, before my own birth, that means Nelson Mandela's had not taken birth at that time. Before his birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences. जो white skinned people थे South Africa के, उन्होंने अपने differences, अपने मतभेद जो थे उनको patch up किया, दूर किया, and they erected a system of racial domination against the dark skinned peoples of their own land. अपने ही country के अंदर, अपनी ही जमीन के ऊपर जो dark skinned people थे, जिनको कि हम black कह रहे हैं, उनके ऊपर उन्होंने racial domination जो थी वो start कर दी. They erected a system which was based on the racial domination. Racial means depending upon the races. जैसे हम कहते हैं ना डिफरेंट रिलीजन या डिफरेंट रेस के से बिलोंग करने वाले लोग जो हैं उनके साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन किया जाता था. दे वर नॉट ट्रीटेड इक्वली. सो द डार्क स्किन पीपल ऑफ देयर ओन लैंड, अपनी ही जमीन के ऊपर उन लोगों के साथ डिस्क्रिमिनेशन जो थी वो स्टार्ट हो गई. एंड इन दिस वे अ सिस्टम ऑफ रेशियल डोमिनेशन स्टार्टेड इन दैट एरिया. द स्ट्रक्चर दे क्रिएटेड formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhumane societies the world has ever known. Please underline what type of structure or the system at that time was started. That was the structure made for that system that was created on the basis of one of the harshest. Harshest means सबसे cruel. Third degree use की गई है, देखिए, the harshest. थर्ड डिग्री सबसे ज्यादा क्रूअल, मोस्ट इनह्यूमन, जो कि मानवीय नहीं था। मानवीय होता है जब हम मनुष्यों के